Nintendo Switch 2 has been out for 6 months, and honestly, that is really crazy. Like, how in the world has it been 6 months for this console being out? I guess time flies when you're having fun, am I right? But looking deep into the Switch 2, there's a lot of things to say about it, with the performance, the power, and the sheer amount of things that you can do, which honestly is really awesome. Now, speaking on things that you can do, of course, video games. Now, the video games that we got this year for the Switch 2 honestly did show off the power of the Switch 2 a little bit more than I would have necessarily anticipated it, but still not enough to fully see the power of the Switch 2. Now, Mario Kart World was definitely a very interesting spin on Mario Kart as a whole. You were definitely able to go anywhere you want, and it was really cool at the start of the year, at the start of the Nintendo Switch 2's life. Then moving over to Donkey Kong Bonanza, that was also another very interesting game. I actually still haven't completed that game. Anyways, moving on, then we had later on, I believe, Super Mario Galaxy 1+2, but that was technically a Nintendo Switch 1 game, but it did have a 4K version for Switch 2, so these two consoles being connected together honestly works out pretty good, because you know if you buy a Switch 1 game, you're obviously going to have a better experience because it has better resolution, frame rates, load times, pretty much everything associated to that. So overall, it is a very awesome and interesting thing. Later on in the year, we did get Pokemon Legend ZA, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Kirby Air Riders, which that right there is probably my favorite game of the year. Kirby Air Riders is so good. Like, I literally have been having so much fun with that game, and now that it's a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive, it honestly makes a whole bunch of sense. Even with the Switch 2's power, I've noticed that there's been a little bit of frame droppings. Now, I don't know if I should be necessarily saying this, but I did notice it. It still is my favorite game, though. The pure amount of customization, the pure amount of accessibility with your characters and cards and pretty much everything, best thing ever. And now moving on later on in the year, of course, we got Metroid Prime 4. Now, this game is honestly very interesting. Playing the beta at Best Buy, it's pretty cool. But overall, everything aside is a really awesome thing with the games. But the Nintendo Switch 2 editions. Now, I've definitely had some mixed thoughts on Nintendo Switch 2 editions. On one hand, they are very cool. There's a lot of things that I would definitely say these are worth it for. Like, I would go so far as saying that the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition is worth it for $10. I mean, you get an application, but at the same time, I would say maybe it should have been free. Like, it definitely should have been free. A lot of these Switch 2 editions should have had either a paid DLC where you get the DLC for, I don't know, $10, but the Switch 2 edition, you should have honestly been able to upgrade them all for free. It would have made the most sense in my eyes, but that doesn't really discount how good some of the Switch 2 editions actually are. Like, I did enjoy Kirby and the Forgotten Lands Star-Crossed World. I thought that game was pretty cool, but it was still deeper in my head that it was just more Kirby levels, which overall, it actually is just more Kirby levels. There is some Switch 2 editions for Mario Wonder, other Switch 2 editions for Mario Party Jamboree, and other Switch 2 editions that Pokemon Legends ZA, you pretty much have to pay for your upgrade, which I don't necessarily like, but some of them give you good DLC is what I'm trying to say. The whole menu for the Switch 2 is a little bit disappointing, and we're 6 months in and still haven't got any themes, music, or anything associated with that. Very disappointed in that fact. But I think that you're not really in the home screen enough to really see if there's a theme, so I guess it makes sense. But hey, it would have been cool to see themes return, like the Nintendo 3DS, the Nintendo Wii U, sorta, and the Nintendo Wii. I mean, it had music, it had sort of themes. It was just really awesome. It would have been cool to see. Amiibo functionality honestly works really great. And this is the system that we got a bunch of different Amiibos. And even though some of the Amiibos don't really do that much, like if you look at the Metroid Prime 4 Amiibos, those Amiibo are very interesting. Now, one of them, I believe Samus on the bicycle or on the bike, it gives you just a skin that you could probably unlock later in the game. Now, you also had Samus, the regular Samus character, which gave you extra shield, defense, or whatever, made you immune for a bit, but it was only for 1 day. Like, you could only use it once per day. And then you had the VTOL amiibo for that game. It just allowed you to scan more things, which, hey, I feel like amiibo support definitely was going a little weird, but hey, who knows? Some of them you are, of course, able to use them, like the Super Smash Bros. Amiibos. Those things are probably the greatest. And speaking on Super Smash Bros., any old Nintendo Switch game runs beautifully on Switch 2. Even the ones that don't even have a Switch 2 edition, they just run and look good. Some of them were free, like we needed the Pokémon Scarlet and Violet free one. That is definitely a thing. But overall, I think 6 months later, I am still very happy with the Nintendo Switch 2. I will say that I've been using the mouse controls a little bit less than I would have inside of like when I first got the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know if it's because I mainly play my Nintendo Switch 2 just sitting back with the TV and I don't necessarily have somewhere to use the mouse on, or I like to sit back and relax while playing the game, or that I've been using the handheld mode more, because the handheld mode is a really good thing. The screen itself, even though it's not OLED, it looks beautiful. And I've been saying this for a long time now, that it looks beautiful playing on that screen. But at the end of the day, you really got to pick it up and look at it and say, you know what, that's very interesting. You got to try it out for yourself. And honestly, I will say that the GameCube application, using it in handheld mode, is honestly my favorite thing. I love playing the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker or any other GameCube games. But the one thing I will have to complain about is that the GameCube games don't release fast enough. So you only get maybe one game every other month, because we haven't really seen a brand new GameCube game since Luigi's Mansion. So overall, it's definitely a very interesting thing. But the Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, I'm having such a fun time just playing through that game. Even though it's not the HD version, you can just bring it anywhere you want, which this is so good. So yeah. But all of these things aside, it really is a very interesting console, and I think if you haven't gotten yourself a Nintendo Switch 2, maybe you would consider one before 2026, because 2026 prices are set to go real bad for the system, or for pretty much anything technology related. So make sure that you pick up your Nintendo Switch 2 if you want one. 2026 is set to get a lot of amazing games, like The Legend of Zelda's 40th anniversary. Pokemon is getting its 30th anniversary. We're getting a bunch of games like a new Mario Tennis game, a new Yoshi game, Pokemon Pokopia, Pokemon Champions, probably Pokemon Generation 10 as well, and maybe a Legend of Zelda game, because of course it's the 40th anniversary. So yeah, all of those things aside, I think the Switch 2 is a great system still 6 months later. I think I had a lot of fun with the games, and I'm going to make a whole video about the games, explaining every single one, which one's the greatest game of 2025 for Nintendo Switch 2, or maybe even Nintendo as a whole. Overall, it's really interesting. And there's one thing that left me wondering. Where's going to be the colors, like the Joy-Con colors? Because black right now, sure, it looks good, it blends with the console itself, but I think having different colors for the console would have been great. Like, what if you were able to have a white console? You could pick in between black and white, because black and white is usually what a lot of people like to pick. Okay, do I want a black computer or a white computer? It's the same thing for Nintendo. The Nintendo Switch OLED that was white honestly looked really, really good. Maybe soon in 2026, we're probably going to get some more customizations. Like if we get a new Legend of Zelda game, you best believe it, there's going to be a Nintendo Switch 2 that's the Legend of Zelda. My goodness, I would probably be so jealous about that. But overall, it's very awesome. And honestly, I forgot to say that you can use keyboard and mouse, which if you're playing a game like Fortnite, it works actually really good. Or even third-party games like Cyberpunk 2077. I've really been enjoying that game. Like, I've never played Cyberpunk before, and I think on the Nintendo Switch 2 at 1080p, I believe it's 30 FPS, it works, it runs, it's pretty great. So yeah, Nintendo Switch 2 6 months later is a pretty good console. I'm really having a great time, and I hope you are too. Anyways, let me know what your favorite thing about Nintendo Switch 2 is in the comments section down below. I would really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much for being here. I hope that if you haven't already, consider to hit the subscribe button. I do a bunch of different Nintendo things on this channel. Pokemon, Zelda, Mario, everything you can think of Nintendo, essentially. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And with that being said, we're so close to 3,000 subscribers. So yeah, your subscription really helps. It helps a lot. Anyways, see you in the next one.